Every morning we say in the Shachar service, Ma Rabu Masecha Hashem, Kulam B'chochma Sisa. The word Rabu can mean how numerous are your actions? They're all made with great wisdom. So the word Rabu could either mean that. How many components are there to existence? What exists within existence? You say it borders on the infinite. How many insects are there? How many species of vegetation is there? How many blades of grass are there? How many granules of sand? How many fish are in the ocean? Endless numbers. Marabu Basecha, whatever you've done, they're unlimited. However, the Ramak, Ramosh Deviro, in the Talmud Dvorah, his work, it's called The Palm Tree of Dvorah, which is Kabbalistic rites. Marabu Masecha doesn't mean how numerous, but how profound are your actions. The profoundness of creation, every aspect of creation is so profound, and it declares your wisdom. Meaning, every aspect of creation, you have the fingerprint of God, Kavayocho, on every aspect. Because the level of wisdom, of genius in everyone is beyond anyone's comprehension. Even the greatest angel doesn't understand the inner workings and what it takes, what lies within the energies which bring that all about. How it comes about, and what's contained, and exactly the purpose. In general, we get it. But the nuances and all the ramification aspects, it's not fathomable. That's my Rab Masecho, Kulam B'choch B'siso. And then David says, Ma'od Omku Mash B'secho, Ma'od Omku. Your thoughts are deep and profound. Again, not to be fathomed. I'll give you an example. Lahavdil. In positive, because only was comparing it to God. Rashi's commentary on the Torah. Without Rashi's commentary on the written law, the oral law, we would not be able to even begin comprehending what's stated in the Talmud, or what's stated in the Chumash. The genius of Rashi, which goes beyond genius, it clearly was written with divine inspiration. A 5-year-old child who's just beginning to study Rashi, the commentary on Torah, he's able to study it. And the most advanced sage, even time of the early commentators, learns that same commentary. And as much as he delves in it, there's more to kol. So that one word, at whatever level you're at, you're able to somehow kol from the most minimal level to the deepest, broadest, most profound level. And the same word. That's what Rashi is communicating. It's a level of genius not to be related to. What that commentary, what it is. There's a known fact, the Chassam Sofer had written and had said that if a person studies Rashi on the portion every week, it touches in a way that it gives one Yiras Shamayim. It gives a person fear of God. Because since it was written with such a pure intent, and whatever's contained with those words, possessing the holiness and the profoundness of what they are, when you read those words, you touch in a way which it gives you a certain sensitivity for God's presence. That's what Chassam Sofer wrote about Rashi's commentary. How profound are your actions? They were all done with great wisdom. David HaMelech looks at them. When King David looked at creation, he didn't see creation the way we see it. We compare it to a person who has perfect vision to a person who has less than macular generation. Literally. What he sees, we don't see. And what we see even today the average person doesn't see. The Gentile doesn't see. It depends from which vantage point are you coming? What is your expanse, the depth? What's your orientation? What's the level of spiritualization which you touched by the Torah, by mitzvahs, which gives you that ability to draw and cull whatever we cull from our experiences of life. No, the most obvious takeaway was, what was the greatest test of Avraham Avinu? The Akedah. He was told by Hashem to take his beloved son, who was born to him in an old age, and bring him up as a burnt offering. And who accompanied him on this 3-day trek? His 2 lads, besides Yitzchok, Eliezer and Yishmael. Eliezer, his dedicated servant, and Yishmael, his son that was born to him from Hagar. They had Avram know exactly where the Akedah was supposed to take place. He had a good idea. It was towards Yerushalayim, because it was known Yerushalayim was always the holy location. But where exactly was he supposed to build this altar and sacrifice his son? He travels 3 days, and all of a sudden, from a distance, he sees a cloud above a mountain. And he understands this cloud is an indication. That's the marker, that's location he's supposed to build, and that's Mount Moriah. That's the Temple Mount, which is meant to be the Temple Mount in the future. So he says to Yitzchak, his son, what do you see? He says, I see a cloud on top of the mountain. Then he says to Yishmael, and Eliezer was a very holy man also. Eliezer was a very holy person. He was a dedicated servant, slave, who attended to all his financial affairs, many other affairs. He says to Eliezer, what do you see? He says, I see nothing. He says to Yishmael, his son, what do you see? He says, I don't see anything. Avram saw the cloud, Yitzchak saw the cloud. The other 2 did not see the cloud. Why? I mean, it's something visible they should see. It's not that they didn't have perfect vision. The answer is, there's certain things you could see if you have a certain level of connection. You're able to perceive things and see it. You're only privy to certain things if you're at that special level. If you're not at that special level, you're not privy to it, God doesn't allow you to see it. Avram and Yitzchak being the future patriarch, and it was crucial that he should be the object of the Akedah. He saw it. That he was referred to as the unblemished offering. He was able to see the cloud. Avram was able. Eliezer, especially as he was, and Yishmael weren't able to see it. Therefore, he says, you people remain behind, we will return to you. The profoundness of the creation. There are endless takeaways. It depends who you are. That spiritually imbued person, every daily event, every moment, you always have takeaways. Life lessons to take away. How to conduct yourself, what to do, what not to do. Other people, they live on automatic pilot. They wake up in the morning, daily routine, day in and day out. This is the way they live their lives. And they see no difference. And what they notice in the grand scheme of things doesn't make much of a difference. Here today, gone tomorrow. A person who sees, especially, he takes advantage of that moment to bring about something which addresses the objective of creation.
What?
The story I told over about the Chofetz Chaim, and this was in the 20s, a certain Jew traveled to the Far East. And when he came back, the Chofetz Chaim says to him, what happened? Did anything unusual happen there? So he says to the Chofetz Chaim, yes, there was a dam that burst, and 10 or 20,000 Chinese were just washed away. They died as a result of this dam breaking. So Chofetz Chaim says, so what does that mean to you? He says, it doesn't mean anything. They were Chinese, they weren't Jews. He says, no, you should have a takeaway on that. What relevance does that have to us? It happened thousands of miles away to people which weren't even Jews. He says, God is sending a message. He says, I'll give you an example. You're in the Vilna train station. And in Vilna, which was part of Lithuania, they spoke Lithuanian, or they spoke Russian. And a person gets up who's in the train station, and he makes an announcement regarding the trains when they're arriving, when they're going, departure and arrivals. And he makes the announcement in English. Nobody in the train station understands English, only Lithuanian and Russian. So you go over to the man and say, if you make announcements for the people to hear the announcement, when the train arrives, when it departs, but if you speak a language nobody understands, what's the point of making the announcement? If God had the dam break in China, and the Chinese don't have the capacity to process why it happened, but we do, because no event happens, there's nothing random. God is revealing his displeasure with mankind. So the takeaways for the Jew, it's for us to learn. As he did it there, God forbid, it could be in our backyard. That same tragedy could bring in our own backyard. Therefore, no event goes unseen. Therefore, we have to hone up. We have to correct our behavior. We have to advance ourselves spiritually. That's what it's about. So in the inordinate act, an event, dam burst, people are killed. It happens. Happens every once in a while. You have a volcano erupting in Hawaii, an island people went to. You have unusual acts of nature in California. Floods, mudslides, loss of property. You realize California is not a bastion of holiness. Not exactly. What goes on there doesn't go on anywhere in the United States. So God, that happens there. And then they're talking about the continental shelf shifting. And if there's an earthquake, the whole California goes straight into the sea. That's what they're talking about, scientifically. It hasn't happened, probably won't happen. But all this information, what are you supposed to do with it? Now, there used to be an expression, put it in your pipe and smoke it. Watch the rings of the pipe going up with the aromatic tobacco. That's not what you're supposed to do with it. You're supposed to reflect on these things. Why are these things happening? The Talmud, the Gemara quotes a pasuk that the pasuk says, "Oleu lo yibo." David Mel says, the leaf does not wither. What is the value of a leaf when it grows on a fruit? When there's a bud, there's a leaf, the fruit grows, and once the fruit is fully ripened, what happens to the leaf? It withers, because the purpose of the leaf is to protect the fruit as it grows, and when it's fully grown, it doesn't need the protection any longer, so the leaf withers. But yet David says, Oleo lo yibo, the leaf doesn't wither. What's he speaking about? So Talmud says that when a Talmud Chochem speaks, a Torah scholar speaks, even his ordinary talk has innate value. And you have to be able to understand, decipher what he says, because this person doesn't speak ordinary things. Whatever he speaks, even the manner of speech, The way he says it is what to take away, the takeaways. Even the inordinate speech, which is not the actual study of the Torah itself, even when he speaks about other things, he'll discuss current events, he'll discuss the weather, what he points out, what he notices. All that emanates from where? From his mind and his perception, the way he sees the world. As a result of that, there's what to learn. So even the leaf, which is not essential, the words of Talmud Chacham, even when he doesn't speak the words of Torah, listen well, because there's what to learn from him. Because everything, there's a takeaway when it comes to that kind of person. So we speak about God's creation. How wondrous. It's unfathomable what's contained within creation, every aspect of creation. There are no two snowflakes which are identically the same. There are no two people have the same fingerprints. It's unbelievable. There are no two facial features, the Talmud says, which are exactly identical. No such thing. And God has reasons, plus many other reasons. We spoke about a face in Hebrew is called panim. It's a face. But without the vowels, what is panim? It can be read pinim. One's face reflects the inner part of the person. It's a reflection of the person's soul, of his state of spirituality. So since every soul has its unique profile, because each soul has its unique objective and has its tailor-made objectives, challenges in life, the face reflects that. The face is the panim reflects the inner part of the person, which is the essence, which is the soul. It's not to be believed. I'm not even talking about the physical human system, the brain, and how it controls the body, and the various systems within the body, and how things have to happen. I once said, Norman was a doctor at New York Hospital for many years. You go up to Columbia Presbyterian, you see buildings, hospital, 16 stories. The equipment which is in these buildings are worth billions and billions of dollars. Heart and lung machines, dialysis machine, everything else. It runs in the amount of technology, the amount of manpower, the education these people need, the technicians, the doctors, to do all this. It's not to be believed. God creates this little human being, 2 tiny kidneys, a heart, lungs, they function properly. It runs cost-free. Could you imagine? The kidneys fail, you need dialysis. You need all kinds of things to maintain it. The person almost becomes non-functional because of the blood is not filtered. So you need this artificial filtering system, and the breathing and the heart and the this and the that, and all kinds of procedures. You remain healthy, self-sufficient. I'm not even talking about the genius of the body, but just the function of the body. What you need. We spoke about replacement parts. Well, today we have replacement parts. Artificial knees, artificial limbs, artificial everything. They even have artificial intelligence today. New thing, artificial intelligence. Could you imagine? At one time, the brain itself was sufficient. Today, we need artificial intelligence. The human brain is not enough. Just a point I just made. Little humorous point. People are becoming so fickle. Without all this other thing, people have no value. Someday, you won't need people. You can only have robots walking the face of this earth. People, you could put them in nursing homes and throw away the kid, forget about them. As long as you have an energy source. Yeah, these wind generating, they'll generate the robots to walk around and do what they're supposed to do. Marabu Masecho. Even what we understand, we're amazed. we really don't get it as we should get it. And God doesn't expect you to get it. But God wants you to know minimally that it's him and nobody else. That's what we have to understand. And here we're talking about even at the end of time, when God will expunge all evil from existence, which will see things. But even to the degree we understand, relative to what it is, it's considered superficiality. But all this demonstrates the unity of God, that God is the infinite being, and everything emanates from him, from nowhere else. He's the source of everything. A person has a serious eye issue. He can't see, and one time he did see. And they came up with a new procedure that you're able to restore one's eyesight. And this, to be able to be eligible for this procedure, you have to have a certain type of condition. And this person was chosen to have the procedure done, and he'll have his eyesight restored even beyond what he originally was able to see. Could you imagine how this person is yearning for that moment when they'll do that procedure on him, he'll be able to see? Today, we live in a world which is totally gray. It's not black and white. Confusion, distortion. But when you study the Torah, you know what clarity is. But unfortunately, being human, being subject to many of our conflicts due to our physicality, we don't see correctly. It's a challenge to see things and put things in the proper perspective. One of the questions they ask every Jew after 120 years, Tzipisa Yeshua, every day did you wait the coming of Mashiach? That question is asked to every one of us. Did you study Torah? Did you deal honestly in business? What was your level of integrity? These are questions are asked. But another question is asked, Tzipisa Yeshua, did you await the final redemption? Why is that such an important question? And if your answer was the farthest thing from my mind, things were great. I had my 401k to retire. I had all my investments, had my summer home, nothing to worry about. That person missed the boat. God's not going to be satisfied with that response, with that answer. See, peacefully, Yeshua, did you await the salvation, the coming of Mashiach? Every one of us is going to be asked that question. Why is that such an important question? And why does the answer have to be, yes, we awaited it, we yearned for that moment? Because if you know what darkness is, and you appreciate darkness, then you're yearning for that light. When the Mashiach comes, all evil goes into the oblivion. God's going to be one, nothing but God. And all humanity will recognize that. God's glory will be glorified at 11, not to be believed. Does that make a difference to you? If it makes a difference, you yearn it. You're in that moment. If it doesn't make a difference, say yes, no. It's a nice thing. It's a good thing. There won't be any anti-Semitism anymore. But that's not what it's all about. There shouldn't be anti-Semitism. You await his coming because that's his glory. Because until now, his name is desecrated. We believe that we are the masters of our own fate. We believe that the power and our own ability brought about all the success. It's not the story. That's not the reality. And people live false lives, believing what they want to believe, but that's not reality. And even the people have an inkling, very often they get off track because that clarity is not sufficient. You know, you drive a road on a foggy night and the fog is thick and you have your lights on, you hope somebody in front of you is driving so you can follow his taillights. But you really, even then, you don't have much clarity. Today, we're following at best taillights. In this fog, that's what it is. Therefore, the question is, Tzipisa Yeshua. You can't wait till that fog is lifted. And to have some level of foresight and farsight to be able to see. What's the visibility? Okay, that's what it's about. But what's the objective? If that is the objective, and we understand that's the objective, how do you not wait for that objective to be met, that God's unity will be appreciated and seen by all mankind? And that's the objective every moment of our lives, to do things now to merit that moment. It's interesting. Norman used to work when he flew to Israel. He would get a discounted ticket because he was agreed to be the doctor available if something should happen on the plane. El Al, if you fly El Al, when you walk down the corridor to go onto the plane, there's all kinds of pictures on the corridor. One time it was just a gray tube you went through. Today, even that's, pictures depicting certain things in Israel. A person thinks he doesn't realize that tube attaches to a plane. He gets into that tube at this narrow corridor. He thinks he's on the way. He's already experiencing the Israel experience in this tube. We read in Pirkei Avos that this world is a prosdor, l'traklin. It's only a corridor to arrive at the great banquet hall. That's all it is. We're in that corridor. That's where we are. This world is the corridor. And the way you get to that banquet hall, you have to pass through the corridor. If you make it through, you arrive. You don't make it through, you don't arrive. They check you at the door. Either to let you through or don't let you through. The Gemara tells us in Shabbos that what is life compared to? A king goes and he distributes the most pristine quality garments to his subjects. And he gives it to each person and he says, make sure to take good care of it. They shouldn't become soiled, they shouldn't become shredded, because when I will ask you in the future for them back, I want them to be in pristine condition. That's what I want. I want you to return it minimally as I gave it to you. So it says the wise subjects, what did they do? They were careful to keep it protected from any wear and tear and from any level of uncleanliness. The fools, what did they do? They put on these very special garments. They went to start plowing the fields. The soil became so embedded in these garments, you couldn't extract the uncleanliness. They shredded the garments. Fast forward 90 years later, knock on the door, the king's here to take his garments back. What do they look like? So the wise subjects, they handed it back in a beautiful box, freshly laundered, and its original pristine condition. King's very happy. Dedicated subjects, welcome to enter into the palace. The others, he takes a look. He's aghast at the king. I give you something of such precious value. You destroyed it. You abused it. You desecrated it. You guys, you go into the hinterlands where who knows what's there. Where the alligators and the serpents and the snakes are. That's where you guys are going. You're not coming in. This world is a prosdor. This is the corridor to a traklin, to this banquet hall. The question is, what happens when you arrive at the door of the banquet hall? Did they let you through or don't they let you through? If you use it as a corridor, as a pass-through to arrive there, so the whole objective of every moment of our life is getting closer to that entry point. And we live responsibly. What is living responsibly? As God tells you to live. But if you live as you want to live, which has nothing to do with the destination, then you have no relevance to that destination. Therefore, you don't qualify to go through that door to go into the banquet hall. But that's exactly what it's all about. But there are enough signposts every day in our life to see exactly how to arrive at that destination. There are enough eye openers. There's enough information to understand what is and what's not, what you should embrace and what you should reject. And God does that because God doesn't want you to be that. You don't have to be an Einstein to be able to arrive. Or you don't have to go to a survival school to go into the outback to know how to survive. God gave us a script. It's called the Torah. He gave us mitzvahs. He gave us various things, which gives us that ability that despite the challenges, we're able to succeed and overcome every challenge, to arrive at the end of life and go through that tracklin into the banquet hall.